The fever is a really important mechanism. It's actually the only mechanism that these people have right now that are fighting this stage of the COVID-19. You go into the hospital and they're giving them, I assume it's Tylenol or ibuprofen. The really most dangerous thing to take is aspirin. If there's anything you guys learn ever in life from me, please remember this one thing. Never, ever take an aspirin when you have any kind of bronchitis, cold, flu, fever, anything. It will bring you into a fast pneumonia, and this is why 45 million people died in the 1918 flu, because it's at the time when aspirin was new and they were giving aspirin to suppress people's fever, and they all went into pneumonias and died. And it's very similar to what's happening right now.
The Vidal Speaks podcast.
Coronavirus 101 and how to build your immunity. Welcome to Vidal Speaks. My name is Deborah Vidal, former 11-year LPGA golf pro turned classical homeopath, certified plant-based nutritionist, and wellness coach. Each week here on Vidal Speaks, we bring you knowledge, inspiration, or natural remedies to help you take charge of your health and feel your best. I believe health is freedom and knowledge is power. So tuning in each week will give you the power to take steps towards freeing yourself from the chains that hold you back from having the energy to do all you want in life. No matter where you are in your journey of wellness, Vidal Speaks can help. I promise. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Vidal Speaks podcast, and man, am I happy to be here inside at my desk and talking to you guys. What a month, or I could say for me, what a year it's been. Oh my God, so I'm just so happy to be here healthy and talking to you guys. And today we're going to talk all about the coronavirus, and that's why I called this Coronavirus 101 and how to build your immunity, because I'm getting a lot of questions and people are worried and confused, and I want to try to set some things straight and give you, as you know, as I always love to do, some tips on what you can do. So first of all, let me just catch you up to speed. So like millions of other Americans out there who have lost their job and their income, I too fell into that category a couple weeks ago. And I know how scary that can be for so many of you out there. Not only do I sympathize with you, but I'm in the same situation, and we're going to talk about that. But I just want to tell each and every one of you out there that my heart goes out to you, because there's a lot of stresses out there, and we need to learn to not be stressed, because we need to build our immunity from this coronavirus, and stress doesn't help anything. So we're going to get there. But yes, I lost my job, and that means my income, and it's really scary. And the reason that you guys haven't heard from me is because right when that happened, I just had a lot of things to do to clean up my finances. So I sold my car really fast. I had a lease and I needed to get rid of it. It was quite difficult because all the dealers were closed except for a few, and I had to take a little bit of a loss. But I don't know, I just kind of felt it was the right thing to do, because it was a time when I feel like that's just an unnecessary payment. As you guys know, I ride a motorcycle and a scooter, so a car to me is a luxury. And so I dumped that, and then I started streamlining my finances and just getting rid of what I couldn't. And I'm going to talk to you guys about that as one of my suggestions. But you just become so overwhelmed that it's the list becomes so big, you know, what to do. And I was just busy doing that. And then the good news is I was mostly busy after that stuff on trying to get some things going on my website, because I want to help people. As you know, that's always my main life work here. And people that have the coronavirus, I want to reach out and help them. And so I wanted to get something up on my website, because over the years I've seen very few patients, mostly just a few of my patients that I've had for a long time, and I was more focused on doing my online and podcasts, but I decided I was going to see some patients again, and so I had some things to put up on my website and to update on on my new website. I shouldn't say new anymore because it's not new, but it's new now because it's not ready yet. But you can look at, there's things up, but it's not ready at all yet. And do you know why it's not ready? Because my web guy has the coronavirus and now his wife has it. And yes, I'm helping them. So I've had some experience now. I've had a couple friends whose kids have had it, and now I have a couple clients that have had it, and my web guy has it. So we're all getting experience, these homeopaths all over the world, so I can talk to you from that point of view also. But anyway, my poor web guy, he was not feeling well. He went to the emergency, and because his x-ray didn't show a full-on pneumonia, it just showed a lot of inflammation in his lungs, which exactly is what they call acute respiratory distress syndrome. But they wouldn't give him a test because it didn't show pneumonia. Can you believe that? I just want to always say, oh my God, but I get it. We didn't have tests and still don't. There's still a lot of people not able to get tested unless they're really looking like they need to go into the ICU or on a ventilator or really practically dying. You don't get a test. So although they're telling you on TV testing is getting better, of course it's getting better, but it can go from bad to less bad to less bad to finally good, and we're not there yet. So anyways, that's been a delay, and understandably, and I'm amazed he's even done what he's done, but he's doing it to help me because I'm trying to get out there while this is going on and help people. And I don't want this desire that I have to go unnoticed. So anyways, that's that. And the other thing that I really want to tell you guys is, on my website, I have something called the VS Club, which is basically like my online classroom. So I hope each and every one of you out there also watch my YouTube videos. Please do, because I talk about different things. And a lot of people are just YouTubers and they don't listen to my podcast and vice versa. But I would recommend that you listen to both, especially now during this time, because I'm going to be doing some YouTube lives and probably some Facebook lives. And then you guys can ask me your questions. So stay tuned to that channel. And now that I'm kind of back on my feet, let's say, caught my breath and did a marathon of work over the last 10 days to do many things to get things going, I feel like I'm ready to really reach out there and be in contact with you guys. So one of the things I decided to do is to offer my VS Club for a really, 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 really low price. Like basically, anybody can do it. And that way it gives us a safe classroom to speak and to ask each other questions, and for me to teach you and help you, because I got a little afraid. I don't know if you know, but my video I put up, my last video was on talking about the remedy gelsemium and how it was used so successfully in the 1918 Spanish flu. And then, I talked about how it's probably going to be a good remedy for the coronavirus because it's similar symptoms. And then that video got taken down by YouTube because they said that I was giving out harmful information. And that's really scary. That's really scary to me because, it's about freedom of speech, and I live in America, and I'm a homeopath, and homeopathy isn't some witchcraft that's been around for 1 year. We're talking about hundreds of years of experience with homeopathy in the Homeopathic Hospital of London, which got shut down from politics. We're talking about using it in epidemics in Cuba with success, and the pandemic of the 1918 Spanish flu. So it has a long history. And for someone to take down my video because they think I'm giving out harmful information when the treatment of these poor people with coronavirus is zero, and they just basically do suppression of their fever and put them on a ventilator and watch them all die. It just irks me. I'm sorry. It just bothers me to even be accused of giving harmful information. Oh my God. So when that happened, yes, I've been a little bit quiet since then because it's made me think, like, what can I do to have the freedom to talk to people? And I came up with the idea, and yes, I asked for guidance and received it. And I came up with the idea to do it through my VS Club, which is a private online classroom and therefore much safer. And then we can speak more openly in there. We're going to do that through a private Facebook group, so we should be safe. So hopefully you guys will all join me. It's not ready yet, but it will be ready, I'm hoping, by next week, maybe even early next week. So be looking at my website, vidalspeaks.com, and please look for that offer because I promise you it's affordable. And I want every one of you out there that listens to my podcast, that watches my YouTube videos, to join because it's a safer place. I promise you, I can tell you a lot more about everything if you're in that classroom. And I'd rather have more people in there and offer it as an affordable service for everybody. And that's what I decided to do. So I'm really excited about that. Okay, so let's move on and talk about Coronavirus 101, kind of what is it, what to do for prevention and treatment, and suggestions and tips to build our immune system. Okay, so now let's talk about Coronavirus 101. So what is that going to entail? Well, first of all, I want to talk about why we should be worried about this pandemic in the United States anyway. And I'm sure this applies to Germany and France and many other countries. Well, one of the reasons why I think we should be really concerned is, well, there's so many, right? There's so many. I mean, the fact that it's contagious when you have no symptoms, that makes it like unbelievably, incredibly powerful to spread throughout a community. And number two, because it's a novel coronavirus, that means never been seen or exposed to humanity before. So in that case, we have to be. And then it's something that's in the lower respiratory tract, which leads to ARDS, acute respiratory distress syndrome, and we'll talk about that. So the consequences are really, really deadly if you get to that point. But another reason that we need to be really worried is because they say it's only affecting people with pre-existing conditions. First, they said it was the elderly and then ones with pre-existing conditions. And if you have one pre-existing condition, then you're more vulnerable. If you have two, then you're even more, and three, even more. And then now we know it's not only the elderly, that there's many, many studies now, because we've seen it in China and Italy, and now it's New York, and they're showing that half the people that are in the ICU on respirators, the average age was 62, which means half are below that and half are above that. So really, it's not something just for older people, but of course the elderly are going to maybe fail faster once they get to that point, because they're older and more toxic and their immune systems are not as good. Although I heard the other day that there was a 104-year-old woman in Italy that recovered from it. So fantastic to just hear that about an old person who still has a great response and immune system. But the point that I'm getting at is, in America, almost our whole population has pre-existing conditions. If you think about heart disease, arterial sclerosis, I think someone was saying that's 60 or 70% of our population. But I don't know those numbers off the top of my head, but I know it's a lot of people, because they've done tests now even on teenagers, and they show that they already have plaque in their arteries. So you gotta figure there's really almost nobody that doesn't have that pre-existing condition. And then they're saying it hits the obese more than people that are in their proper weight category. And our country, I think, is leading in the amount of obesity that we have. So the percentage of our population, I heard this morning that it was 35%, but I think it's higher than that. I guess there's different qualifications for obesity, but that's scary. And then if you take diabetes type 2, that's another, they said 35%. And if you add all those together, to me, it basically means that there are very few people without a pre-existing condition, but I keep hearing on the news how don't worry because it's only affecting the elderly and everyone that's dying had pre-existing conditions. But who doesn't? Oh my God, that's so scary. And I keep saying, I'm like the armchair referee. When I hear that, I have to yell out, but everybody has pre-existing conditions. I have this little doll and it's called the armchair doll, and you can hit it on the chair when you hear something on TV that's annoying. And I think I'm beating this thing to death because it's so annoying. So it's true that I'm not going to say we because I don't have heart disease or diabetes or obesity, but it's true that we as a nation have pre-existing conditions almost throughout our population. And I know it's the same in Germany and France and England and Australia and all over the globe. So it's scary when they say that it's only getting serious with people with underlying pre-existing conditions. And then if we add on conditions like asthma or previous lung conditions, yes, then that throws even more people in the category. So for this reason, I think we all need to be really concerned, and especially if you're one of the people out there that have one of those pre-existing conditions. And then the next thing I want to talk about is, so what are the stages of the coronavirus infection? Let's talk about this because they keep saying about how 80% of the cases get a mild case. Okay, I wouldn't call it mild. From the people that I know that have had it, it wasn't so mild. It's not like, oh, geez, I had the coronavirus. Now, of course, there's always going to be people that maybe even showed they had it and don't even remember having it. But I think that percentage has to be really low. Most of the people that I know that have had it, which isn't very many now, just a handful, but for all of them, it was like a really bad flu and it still won't go away. They're still fighting symptoms, still having a terrible headache, still really super tired, still having a hard time breathing normally. So, and there is lung damage that can happen if you get to that stage. So these are the reasons why I think homeopathy can help, not only just to teach you about the stages of the disease, but also maybe what you can do on your own, not only for immunity to, prevent yourself from getting any infection like a flu or a cold. They're all in that category. We should be doing all we can to build up our immune system all the time anyway. But for right now, I want to talk about the stages. So the first stage to me, it seems that for some people they sneeze or get a sore throat, but for most people they talk about a fever and a little cough. But I know that there have been several of the people that I know that got it. They got a sore throat and a slight fever, and then the cough came shortly after that. So I would say that first category would be either sneezing, fever, sore throat, or cough, but it's kind of mild and you just start feeling tired. And then I think the next phase goes where the cough gets worse and you feel really tired, really like almost to the point like you can't move. You feel you just want to sleep all day and you can't do anything. I use the word paralyzed, but it's just an expression. It's not real paralysis, but you feel so exhausted you can't move, almost as if you were paralyzed. And then the third stage, which you hope you don't go to, but the third stage is that feeling of tired is there and maybe even a little worse, but now that cough has gone deeper into the lungs. So a cough can be in your bronchi, which is the little tubes that come out of your lungs, and then it's a little higher up and not so deep. But when it starts going into your lungs, the lobe of your lungs, the big lobes of your lungs, then you're going to feel like it's harder to breathe. You're going to get more lung congestion. But really, I would say constriction more than congestion is probably the feeling, because that's what everyone's describing. And yeah, they're telling me it's super scary, like I could hardly breathe. And I know, because I've had a pneumonia, and my pneumonia landed me in the hospital, and I did go into acute respiratory distress syndrome, and they didn't think I'd make it through the night to midnight, so I can tell you exactly what this feels like. It's so scary. It took me 45 minutes to crawl on my butt across the floor to get to the phone, just to call. And I should have called 911, but when you're in that state, you're not even thinking straight. And I just hit redial and happened to get the person who I had last talked to, who came and got me. But I'm telling you, it's so scary. You have no energy even for a breath. And my lungs were totally both filled up at that point. I felt like I had to be the alligator, because I learned when I lived in Florida that alligators can breathe one breath in 45 minutes. And that's what it felt like. Don't panic. Calm down and just use that little tiny space that you have left to get some air until you get help. But I had sadly taken a remedy that was working so well, and then I fell asleep, and I had a super high fever, and I was really, my fever was 105.7, you guys, so it was really, really high. And my friend was going to take me to the hospital, and I told her, please just give me a remedy first, and I promise I'll go, but just in 20 minutes, just give me 20 minutes. And I took the remedy antimonium tart 200, and honestly, in 20 minutes, my fever was 103, and in 20 more minutes, it was 101, and in 20 more minutes, it was 98, and I felt totally normal. But I was home alone, and I went to bed because I was exhausted, as fevers do. They can really exhaust you. And then I went to bed, and I fell asleep, and sadly, I sleep very deeply, and in this moment, I didn't wake up to take any more remedy, and when I did wake up, it had come back, and geez, I just kicked myself, because if I would have made myself wake up every hour and take a dose of the remedy, I still could have avoided it. So I know that feeling of acute respiratory distress syndrome, and it's not fun. And I would say the third stage is you're getting to that place. You're feeling like it's really difficult to breathe. You're probably going to be anxious because you can't breathe so well. A good word to use is your lungs feel constricted, as if you can't get enough air, and that's because you can't get enough oxygen from the inflammation and fluid that's building in your lungs. And then the fourth and final stage is acute respiratory distress syndrome. And this is a little bit different than just having a pneumonia, because what happens is the body's response, it's called a cytokine storm, and the body's response is to build mucus to try to suffocate the virus. So it's busy building mucus and trying to suffocate all the virus cells. And pretty soon, instead of suffocating the virus, it's also suffocating you in addition. So it builds with all this fluid and mucus in your lungs, and soon you can't get any oxygen down through your lungs, which you need to, because it has to go into your lungs and then back out into the blood. And this is why the people that have active infections and in the end stage of coronavirus, before they get on this ventilator, you see a lot of people collapsing and fainting, because when you don't get any oxygen there, you pass out. And that's what happened to me in my pneumonia. When I got up that morning and I walked to the bathroom, and then I fainted, and I don't know how long I was collapsed on the floor because I was home alone. And when I got up, that's when I crawled on the floor to try to go get to somebody. But that's why you faint or collapse, because there's no possibility to get oxygen into the blood. And this is life-threatening, and you can die. And at that point, you need to be put on oxygen and often a ventilator. And so this is the big problem right now, is that so many people are getting to that stage. And then I mentioned the fever on the early stage, and I would say the fever is existing through every stage. The problem, and I just want to tell you guys, this is just my homeopathic opinion, because so many people, when they get to the hospital, so many of them are now dying. They put them, there's no real treatment, right? We don't have a good antiviral drug yet. There's no vaccine. And not that these things don't have their own complications, because as you guys know, my mom died from a vaccine, so you can think that it's such a big help for you to avoid something, and in the end, that takes your life. So, and then there's a drug, like they're using the chloroquine, that drug that they're using for it, that's showing to be positive, but that also has its side effects. But hey, it's to save your life. You can deal with the other stuff later, hopefully. So whatever they can come up with at that point to help people. But right now, not everyone has access to that. And they're really just putting them on a ventilator and taking their fever away with Tylenol. But can I say that again? They're taking their fever away. Now, all of you guys that listen to me must know this. I'm sure out of anything I've ever said in the past, I've had to say it at least 50 times, that the body has its own way of healing, and we call it nature's law. And when we get sick and we have a bug, whether it's a bacteria or a virus, our body responds to that by bringing on a fever, because the fever can burn and kill the bug. The fever actually produces the right kind of cells that attack the bug. But let's just make it in really simple layman's terms that the fever will attack the bug and kill the bug. So we need our fever. And imagine if your body's in a life-threatening situation like I was when my fever was 105.7. 105.7, most people tell you, that's crazy. I'm surprised you didn't get brain damage and go into convulsions. But I know, sadly, in our culture, we teach people that 101 or 2 or 3 fever is really, really high. In my opinion, I, in my own body, I didn't feel endangered by that, because I knew that I needed that response of my body to have any fighting chance to make this. I had to take whatever risk this is just how I was thinking. I had to take that risk as a way to heal myself, because I know so well the dangers of taking that fever away. I'm 100% convinced that if I would have taken that fever away with a Tylenol or an aspirin or an ibuprofen, that I would have not made it through. And of course, in the hospital, that is what they did do, but I managed to not always swallow those, but let's not go there. Okay, so anyways, let's just talk about the fever. And the fever is a really important mechanism. It's actually the only mechanism that these people have right now that are fighting this stage, this 3rd and 4th stage of the COVID-19. So what's happening? They go into the hospital and they're giving them, I assume it's Tylenol or ibuprofen. And although I can tell you the really most dangerous thing to take is aspirin, and I don't even think they give aspirin anymore. So I want to say this one more time. If there's anything you guys learn ever in life from me, please remember this one thing. Never, ever take an aspirin. Never, ever take an aspirin when you have any kind of bronchitis, cold, flu, fever, anything. Do not take an aspirin. I'm talking specifically about aspirin. It will bring you into a fast pneumonia, and this is why so many people, 45 million people, died in the 1918 flu, because it's at the time when aspirin was new and they were giving aspirin to suppress people's fever, and they all went into pneumonias and died. And it's very similar to what's happening right now. So it makes me always wonder, all my life I've always wondered, I wonder if ibuprofen would be the same or Tylenol would be the same. So I've been reading articles that are saying that the coronavirus doesn't seem to do well with ibuprofen, but I don't really think it's the drug. I think it's the fact that the medical society and the medical world doesn't understand the importance of a fever. It's so hard to believe because it's such a natural understanding for anyone in alternative medicine. So I think what's happening is these poor individuals can't breathe. They go to the hospital, they have a fever, they put them on oxygen and even a ventilator, and then they do things like Tylenol because it's all they can do in the moment. Or maybe they go there and they can't breathe and they put them on oxygen first. And then they give them a Tylenol or an ibuprofen to help their fever, and then it pushes their fever down, and instantly now they need a ventilator. I don't know. I'd love to see the study on that. I would love to see like how many people after given a Tylenol or ibuprofen just continued to get worse and needed a ventilator, or how many on a ventilator that got it then died. Because in my understanding of how the body works, we cannot take away the body's response to fight that infection. And I know this is going to cause a lot of people their life. So I just want to tell you guys it's the danger of aspirin. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just telling you what I would do if it were me, because I don't want to get in trouble to tell anybody else what to do. But I'm just telling you the importance of having a fever, and there's a lot of natural ways that we can treat our fevers. We can take a cool bath, and we can take a washcloth and put it cool all over our head. We can take great homeopathic remedies that have been known to build your, however I want to say this carefully, to build your immune system in a way that it can, handle the problem on its own by strengthening up whatever needs to happen, because that's the safest way for me to say that. So there's lots of things that we can do naturally, but actually it's just good to just rest and sleep and go to bed and try to let the fever burn and sweat out some of the toxins in the bug and see what happens. And if you ever get to that point where you feel totally dangerous, of course, go to the hospital. But as I always have done myself, I do everything first I can on my own. Okay, so that leads me to prevention. Is there something that I can do to build my immune system to try to not make sure, because we don't know, we don't know who's going to get it or not, because we don't even know who out there is infected. But is there something that I can do to help my immune system, give me the best chance to fight this off? And look, there's so many of us are going to get this over the next 2 years or maybe 10 years. But the problem is we can't all get it right now, because as you can see, what's happening in New York is going to happen everywhere if we don't protect ourselves. So what can we do? Number one, wear a mask when you go out or you're around. Hopefully you're not going out, but if you're out and around anybody, stay the 6 feet apart like they're saying, and wear a mask and gloves. Now, if you don't have a mask, then take 2 bandanas and tie them around your nose and mouth. It's better than nothing, because I don't care what the CDC is telling people about masks. You can see they're changing their mind right now. And now today they're saying wear face covering because it probably can help you, but they don't want you taking the N95 mask away from the healthcare workers. And I understand that they need the N95 mask, but I happen to have an N95 mask because Lloyd does a lot of things in the garage, and a lot of people that work in the shop and do car mechanical stuff and construction have N95 masks. So he had some, so I have one. I just have one, and I'm going to use it, and I'm glad I have it. And okay, maybe the whole world doesn't need them, but if we could produce enough of them, I would say get one of those when the world can have enough of them. But yes, the healthcare workers should have them, but I don't want to risk my life to go out without a mask. And just because I'm listening to the CDC and the WHO tell me that it's not necessary, but thankfully they're changing their mind right now, because I've believed all along that we should all wear a mask. So wear a mask and wear gloves. That's a really important thing to prevent yourself from getting it, because even if it can't go through your skin, but it goes through mucous membranes. So you need your eyes. I would wear glasses, even if they're sunglasses, or if you wear glasses already, okay, and then a mask and gloves. And then the next thing, what can we do? Stay home. Stay home if you don't. We all have stay-at-home orders in most of the places now. It's probably going to become every state, every country is going to eventually probably get there. So stay at home if you don't have to go out. And lastly, get some homeopathic remedies. Sadly, if you don't have any right now, it's probably not going to be possible or very difficult to get, or it might take a long time to ship. But try and get a homeopathic kit. I told you could use Natural Health Pharmacy. They sell kits. You can use Helios.com, which is a gigantic pharmacy in England, but they're all overwhelmed right now. You could call Delesis or Washington Homeopathics, but all pharmacies are really overwhelmed, so I'm not sure the availability. But if you know anybody that has the coronavirus, please ask them to go to my website and sign up for a consult with me. And if they can't afford it because they've lost their job and they really can't afford it, tell them to contact me anyway, because I want to help people. And lastly, if you have any symptoms, do your best to get tested. But if that means you have to get in the car and go stand in a line crowded with all these people, then don't do it yet if you're worried about that. But if you have serious symptoms, really serious respiratory and hard time breathing, and you have no way to have any remedies in your house, then it's really important to get to the emergency as soon as possible, unless you have any other kind of life-saving natural remedies that you can try while you're waiting to go there. But you can't wait too long, because in this stage, things can move pretty fastly down into your lungs. So then you're kind of forced to go. But that's why I like to have all my things, at home here before something like this happens, or before I get a flu, or before I have a bronchitis or a cold or a pneumonia. I don't want to have to go out or go to the hospital when I have it, but sometimes you just have to, like I did. So I'm not saying don't go. I'm just saying do everything you can, because we're trying not to overwhelm our healthcare systems. But one of the really good things is they're talking about the antibody testing coming really soon. And that's something I've been saying for 6 weeks. Like, if we could just develop an antibody test, then the people who have the antibodies could go back out and work and be in society, or at least we would know that they would be safe. I don't know how we would know, like they would have to do some kind of mark or wear something so that we would know those people are safe. But this is something we really have to consider, because if we've been tested and we know we have antibodies and that we have it, and then it's a lot safer to know that now when we go out, we won't infect anybody. Because that's really the scariest thing here, is that they're finding that 50% of the people infected got infected by someone with no symptoms. So it's really a high amount of this anti-symptomatic transmission. And this is what makes it so bad. And it's why I have to keep telling you guys, wear a mask, wear face covering, wear gloves, don't go out, stay home, just be safe. But at the same time, I want to tell you, and I'll talk more about this later, that, everybody's so worried about the bug, but nobody's talking about the terrain, meaning our own immune terrain, right? But if we had a really good, clean system and a strong immune system, that means our terrain is strong, and we have to have the faith in that. But, it's just a time to respect others, because not everybody has that, and very few people do. And so it's just better to stay home and do the responsible thing for others, because there are many people out there with pre-existing conditions, and we don't want to infect them just in case we've been exposed and we don't know it. So I'm really looking forward when they get that antibody testing going. I think that's going to be good, and then we'll see what other discoveries are down the road. Time to take a little break and get a drink. And I just want to remind you one more time to please, if you know anybody that's struggling with an active infection, please tell them to go to my website and do a consult. And if they can't afford it, to email me. And B, keep going to my website, you guys, and look for the VS Club offer. It's coming really soon. I promise it's going to be within a week, and it's going to be really affordable, really affordable. So please join me, because it's a much safer environment where we can all talk and help and support each other. And why not? We're all at home in this quarantine, and it's a great time to learn homeopathy while you're home. Yes, learn homeopathy and some vegan recipes and cooking and how to build our immune system and so many good things, okay? So check my website and look for that offer, because I don't want you to miss it, and I want to see you there. Okay, now let's finish up. Okay, and I also want to remind you guys that it's really important to not be stressed out. And I know that's not easy right now, because so many of you out there have lost your jobs also, and that you're really stressed about how you're going to make it. But there's so much unknown right now. We don't know anything right now about what's going to happen or what's going on. The world is in such a financial crisis. We honestly don't know what's going to happen. I can't even wrap my head around it. I live in LA, and I go down the street when I've had to go out, and this was couple weeks ago because I haven't been out, but I go down the street and I look and everything is closed, everything. And restaurants, all these restaurants in LA, these beautiful places, these stores, these small businesses, these family businesses, everybody, how are they going to make it? How are they going to make it? They're offering takeout service, but they're all going to go under. And then they're offering them loans, but they're loans. And oh my gosh, it's so immense. It's so immense. And in a way, you can understand why we all feel like the world is on a verge of a financial collapse, but also our healthcare system is on the verge of financial collapse. But we have to remember to not get too focused on that. We can only do what we can do. And stress doesn't help anyone, and it certainly brings down your immune system. So I want to tell you, do the best you can. If it helps you every day, get up and meditate and try to catch your mind every time you're out of the now. If you're thinking back and you're thinking forward, then tell yourself, I always visualize a stop sign and I say, stop. Now is the moment. What can I do with my moment now? Can I do something positive for others? Can I do something that's going to help others? That's where I've been putting my mind on, working what I can do to promote something to help people out there that are either suffering with this, or to teach all of you out there what you can do to empower yourself. So be present, stay in the now, and be happy no matter what. And if you are one of the people that have a financial stress because you lost your job like I did, then I know it's not easy to say, be happy, but we can't have our happiness be based on our financial situation. We can't have our happiness based on our partner's mood or our friends or what we own or if we have a nice car, or those are all important things in life, but they shouldn't be what make us a happy person, right? So just take action and do the best you can. If you try to pare down your expenses and try to learn how to unload things that you don't need. If it's possible, call companies and ask for help so that you can set up where maybe they will defer your payment to 1, 2, or 3 months out so that you don't ruin your credit. But do something to take action so that you can feel empowered. Don't do any unnecessary spending. Of course, you need food in these times, and maybe some of you are struggling for that. But talking to your neighbors, reach out, look for shelters that are giving food to people who have lost their jobs. Just take action, because it's so much in a more powerful position to take an action than to sit home and be a victim, because there's millions of people out there. Somehow this is all going to work itself out. Just do the best you can to keep your stress level low and your immune system up. So, and then the other thing you can do is, make meals that are affordable. Use a lot of beans and rice right now. Whatever you can, maybe you have to sacrifice some of the foods that you were eating because they're more expensive, and just, if you can, I don't know, I know everything is out of stock, but try to order dried beans and dried rice, and dried quinoa is expensive, so you could use things like millet, but rice isn't expensive. And I know it has its problems with rice, but we're in a pandemic and we just have to do our best. And beans and rice is one of the healthiest meals you could have as far as nutrition. It's just sad that the rice has arsenic in it, but we can continually work on our detox, and you just have to do what you can and buy, something that is packaged up and dry. I bought a lot of oats because then you can make oatmeal, and that's inexpensive, and you can make your own plant milks, but pick something that's not maybe like cashews or almonds that are expensive. Try to do it maybe oat milk and make your own. So this is what I mean. Try to be resourceful, because these things really make a difference in a time like this. And then lastly, but most importantly, do your best to try to find a way to get some life-saving homeopathic remedies. And if you're interested, just know that in addition to my active coronavirus consultation on my website, I also have one that I'm offering as a written protocol for things that you can do and take to build your immunity and build your immune system up for prevention. So check out my website. It's under the services page, and then you'll see homeopathic consultations under that page. So check it out. It's going to be a lot better next week, but right now just the basic print is up. But keep coming back to it because it's going to be beautiful like the other pages as soon as my poor web guy gets over the coronavirus. Oh my gosh. And lastly, I just want to talk about this from a totally different perspective, because right now we're looking at all the human lives that are being lost, and we're looking at all the financial catastrophe that's taking place and all the people that have lost their jobs, and everything's just been thrown upside down, and it just seems like such a horrible thing. But I also want to take a look at this from a different angle, and that's the angle of nature and our animals. And I have to tell you that I've been preaching about nature's law and how things have to balance themselves out no matter what. You guys know I always say nature's law always wins. It never loses. And we've been over-consuming and over-destroying and overspending and overeating and over-medicating and over everything for so many years. I, as a homeopath, have been saying that in my lifetime, I know I will see a pandemic. And that's because I have had to watch how Western medicine has suppressed so many symptoms and diseases with drugs, and how many Americans are on these suppressive drugs. And it's only a matter of time before diseases either drive so deep that the person dies at a younger and younger age, or that the drugs will no longer work anymore, because we're putting so many antibiotics in our animals because we eat those animals and we need them to grow faster and bigger and faster and bigger because it's a production. They're not human, I know that, but they're animals, and they have feelings and they feel pain and they have emotions just like everyone else. And we're raising these animals 80 billion a year for people to eat. And in order to do that, we have to pump them full of drugs, not only just antibiotics, but many other drugs. But let's just talk about the antibiotics for now. And then people are eating meat 1 to 3 times a day, and they're getting their body filled with those antibiotics. And now we've created the problem of having superbugs. Okay, this is a superbug that's out. It's a super virus. We know that it has originally come from the bat originally, but we know that it's jumped, but that doesn't matter right now where it came from, who did it, what country. None of that's important. What's important right now is that nature is seeking its balance at this point. I believe that this virus is a way to send everybody home, to clean the air, to save some animals, to give everybody a rest, to make people enjoy their family, to make people think about the life that they had before coronavirus than they will have after coronavirus. So we need to take our mind a little bit away from the financial collapse, because even in this financial collapse, I believe that maybe there's some possibility that the companies that were corrupt maybe we'll have to learn a lesson here, or, maybe the hospital systems will see their weakness, and maybe we'll understand a better reason why there should be health care for everyone and not just a private thing, because we all are vulnerable. So there's always good that comes out of bad, always. And from the perspective of our planet and our animals and our world, this has been a really healing time, and I hope that it continues to be healing, although I don't want the continuation of all these human lives that are suffering and dying from this horrible virus. So I'm just saying, like, where there's a sun that's shining light, on the other side there's darkness, and on one side there's light. And that's how I'm trying to look at it. I'm not saying this is a great thing. I'm saying it's not surprising to me that it happened, because I kind of always knew there was going to be the next pandemic, the next superbug that could take us all out without any drug to kill it. I knew it was coming. As a homeopath, I've seen it happen in 1918, and we've talked about it in all our learnings in homeopathic school. I'm a vegan, so I've learned a lot about what they're doing to animals, and I see all those drugs going into the people, and I've seen suppression of people's diseases for 25 years, and I knew this was coming. So I'm sad to be here. I'm sad that this is where we're at. I'm sad so many are losing their lives. It's horrible to see. I'm sad for all the doctors and healthcare workers that went into this business because they really want to help people, and now they're losing their lives. Oh my God, it's so sad. I'm sad for the firemen and all the ambulance drivers and all the people that are doing the EMT, and it's just heartbreaking, and I feel filled with grief for all of these people. So please don't interpret this as me saying I'm not being compassionate and I'm happy for nature. I'm just saying I know that nature always wins because natural law will always win. And just maybe we need to have a little thought about maybe this happened because we've just taken too much from the planet. We've just pushed things too far, overspent, overeaten, over-destroyed, over-consumed. Just maybe it's a healthy thought to have so that after coronavirus, maybe we can have a little more respect, a little more balance in our overconsumption and our over-destroying, and just maybe something good will come out of this years after this. I pray for that anyway. So you guys, that's it for today. I'm so happy to be with you here today, and I so missed you, really I did. And maybe now I can reach out to more people and get people to say yes to be on my podcast, because everybody's going to be in quarantine and they're going to be bored. So now everybody will want to talk to me. So cool. I hope to do more podcasts, but I for sure will be doing more videos because that's what people are wanting, and more lives so that they can ask me questions. So stay tuned and stay with me, okay? I love you guys. So for right now, I'm going to say you guys know what time it is, right? It's time to say goodbye. So until next time, be sure to wear your mask, wear your gloves, and stay home and trust in your healthy immune system and do what you can to keep boosting it and de-stress. And I'll see you right back here around my table next time. Vidal has spoken. Remember, you heal with a plant-powered diet, homeopathy, and detoxing, of course. Peace. Be healthy. Be free. Live life.